Slate Trucks is accepting reservations, and for the low price of $50, you can give $50 to a company that will never give you a truck. And I've had to field so many questions about it over the last few days that I just have to make yet another video. I've got Randy Kirk joining me. Randy Kirk is a serial entrepreneur who understands things about manufacturing, about business pricing, about business prospects, and all of that good stuff. We're going to have a chat and see if we can figure out a way that this $27,000 price tag makes any sense at all. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So, Randy, you have heard the news. It's very exciting. Here's the engineering behind Jeff Bezos's $20,000 Slate EV. Okay, let's start right there. Is this Jeff Bezos's truck?
Well, we talked about this in the green room before coming on, and apparently Jeff is putting his name on this thing and a few bucks, but I'm not sure that he had anything to do with designing it, developing it, planning it, anything else. But there you go.
He hasn't actually even put his name on it. His name was put on it. He apparently put some money in, but we're talking millions, not billions,
right?
Not even necessarily tens of millions.
Right.
The company has only raised, I think, 130 million ever. And behind the $20,000 Slate EV, it's actually like 27,000. So okay. With incentive, should it qualify, should the incentives remain that long,
right?
In theory, it could be a $20,000 truck. 20,000 for a truck, that would sell like crazy, wouldn't it?
I think so. Maybe in some countries, maybe.
Well, maybe there are a number of people have already signed up for the reservation, have already put down their $50 to donate to a good cause, I guess, because there was a Slate event that took place. And this article I brought up because it shows a lot of what you get. And you can see this is a pretty simple design. Mm-hmm. Here's the CAD, though. You can see that's a lot of stamped steel and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Stamping equipment, not necessarily famously affordable, and they don't have any stamping equipment.
Oh, okay.
They don't have a factory. Their hope is to purchase a derelict factory in the Midwest and retool it. You could get a bargain on something like that, but ask Tesla, ask Rivian, heck, ask Ford, who doesn't even use their own derelict factories, but tears them down and builds from scratch. If you want efficiency, greenfield is the way to go.
Right.
Yeah. This no longer looks quite as simple once you see the schematic, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, there's a battery. If we want to go budget, what kind of battery should we do?
LFP.
Can't do it. That's import duties. We need this to be eligible for the credit. We're going to go with a high nickel battery from Korea.
We are?
Yeah, from SK Innovations.
Wow.
So that's still a very pricey battery. And fortunately, though, it is 57 kilowatt hours, which is small. Not like crazy small, but small. It's more like 50. It's in the 50s. Huh? And they expect to get you 150 miles of range, which means it would be getting efficiency on par with a Model Y. Do you think something this shape can get the same kind of aero flow as a Model Y?
Probably not. And I'm kind of, as much as this is kind of a traditional truck shape, I'm wondering if that's even wise. If you're going to do something where you're trying to break into a very, very big market in the United States, do you want to have it look that plain?
Interestingly, they say that it is not just a truck, it can also be converted. You yourself can at home easily convert it to an SUV. But I'm looking at trying to figure out how you'd get into the back seats other than crawling through that tiny door hole.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how that would work, but that's all right. This is more of a traditional design.
Okay. Yep.
This is the Honda Ridgeline. You can see this is very much unibody. They decided to call theirs not unibody, but a slate board. And this is
board. Okay.
Yeah, this is the add-on pieces, I guess, that allow you to turn it into a SUV.
Hmm.
Still not super clear how you get into the back seat, but
Hmm.
let's just imagine that's solved. Um, you can see some cost cutting measures here. One cost cutting measure that sounds really good on paper is they've gotten rid of the the power windows,
Power windows,
replace
right?
replacing them with hand crank windows. How much cost savings do you think that introduces?
Well, it might be. How many windows they got? Maybe two windows,
Just
right?
the 2.
Two
Mm-hmm.
windows, so maybe $50 a window, something like that.
How much?
You think $50 a window?
I don't. I
Oh,
don't think it's going to save you any money at all
oh,
because the mechanism has to be robust in very different ways. And you've just introduced a lot more linkage that you didn't have before.
hmm,
And installing it and putting it all in, I think the reason all cars have power windows now is not because car makers are generous, but because it's actually cheaper.
hmm,
And if you're going to make these something that can be retrofit, all these other things you speak of, they can be added later if you so desire. So that means you have to engineer it in such a way that it can be
oh,
either one.
wow,
I don't know that there would be any cost savings, but let's say it is 50. That's $100 a truck cheaper.
right, right.
That's okay. Yeah, they got rid of the infotainment, and so there's no stereo, there's no speakers.
No speakers.
Is No, no, no. You need to buy your own Bluetooth speakers, your own sound bar, whatever you want. It's a blank slate, Randy. You can
I
make it
gotcha.
whatever you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
If I want to purchase those things and add them to my vehicle, the cost can be whatever I want, but it starts at many hundreds and goes up from there, I would say, right? If I
I'm
buy
begin-
it myself and add it later,
yeah, as a marketing guy, I'm beginning to see this as something that I should build in Mexico for South America and Mexico.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
not, I don't think this is going to have a lot of buyers in the US because you could go out and buy a used, um, you know, 4-door pickup or whatever for probably close to the same price. You could probably buy a used Lightning for this price.
For 30,000, I
Right.
think that's not an unreasonable ask, certainly by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
And that's a world more car.
Right.
Um, getting when you put if you add infotainment to a car, it's very expensive. If the manufacturer adds it, it's not as expensive. The
Yeah.
screens are when you're purchasing a million of something, you get a pretty good price.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't know how much they're actually hoping to cut out of it. Um, and here's a photo of some real world testing. Now, forget about the cost to manufacture. You have to design the thing
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
What is the cost before you enter production?
How much are you?
Staggering.
Yeah. How
It's
much are you going
staggering.
to spend? Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Um, they're using McPherson struts. So normal, good quality suspension. But I'm not sure where the savings is. Another savings, I said, look, guys, when you're talking a factory, it is it safe to say that in order to get a very good price on this truck, the volume needs to be tremendous?
Yeah.
In order to have a factory with high throughput, I said your paint shop is going to cost 100 million, to which many angry commenters said, did you even read the article? The body panels are plastic.
Oh.
Does that mean I don't need a paint shop?
You probably need some kind of a paint shop because you're still going to have to paint the other metallic parts that are exposed.
Correct. You still need to paint almost the whole thing. It's just the skin you're not painting, unless you wish it to rust out in like 6 months. You have to paint it. So you're not getting around that. If this could be built at this price, wouldn't it be fair to say that someone in China would already be doing it?
Yeah, well, again, I've been the one who's been talking about Tesla as part, on the existing Model 3, Model Y platform, doing a mini truck, making a small truck, because I think there's a market for something like that, electric. But I would, Tesla should be able to build that. If I would usually the same size truck, this kind of truck is usually a little less than that same size sedan. So I would think that Tesla should be able to make a truck like that for a little less than a Model 3. And I think that would sell.
Sure. If Tesla made Simone Gertz's Truckla, it would be less expensive than whichever 3 or Y it was based on. If Tesla made an El Camino,
Right.
uh, it would it would reasonably cost less than a Model 3. Uh, I've got a lot more slides here. I did want to mention a huge thanks to my supporters. Thank you for making it possible for me to go to China recently. Thank you for making it possible for me to do all the trips and for not having to pander to the algorithm. I make a lot of videos that you guys really say you love that don't get as many views because they're more, because they're for you. I made it for you. So thank you guys for that. We've now got to look at this guy here. This is a lot of fun. Huge potential, many unknowns. So if I was going to make this, you said make it in Mexico because labor's cheaper. You
Yeah.
think that in the Rust Belt, where the factory would surely be unionized within seconds, might not be the most affordable place to build it.
Yeah. I just think, yeah, again, I just think Mexico is now a manufacturing powerhouse in the world. They have a tremendous amount of automotive knowledge. They have, I'm sure, plenty of labor down there to build this, and you could build it down there. You've mentioned this to me many times before. If you build it in Mexico, now you're tied into all the South American countries with trade agreements, and it would seem like this is the kind of work truck that might appeal to that entire Latin American community where they're looking for something really inexpensive to just bang around, get to work, get out there and take care of that construction job or that farm job or whatever it happens to be.
Extreme value. This
Yeah,
does promise ease of repairability. They don't want you locked in with them. They'll make every manual available right out of the gate. A lot of people are also saying that, well, sure, they're not going to make money on the truck, but it comes with a massive catalog of options for customization.
I see. I see. Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't I just buy those from any third party provider for less? I mean, if
No,
it's
it's
so common, that would make sense to me. The $20,000 American-made electric pickup with no paint on the outside, no stereo, and no touchscreen. Well, it still has the screen, right? I mean, there is a
yeah.
backup camera required by federal rules. So, and that's where your speedometer and whatnot is. Um, Getting rid of the touchscreen doesn't mean the car has less controls. It just means we've gone back to buttons for all the controls, and buttons cost money.
We've been having this conversation about the Tesla, truck, the Cybertruck. They've made this stripped down model, this less model with less of the goodies that are on the existing model or the original models. And there's already been complaints about that because you start taking away those goodies and the value just drops so rapidly. It seems in this case that they've taken it down to something that's not appealing to the American truck purchaser. If anything, the American truck purchaser seems to be really into the goodies, maybe even more than the sedan purchaser.
So I'm going to point this out because this is, to me, the crux of the misunderstanding. It's probably no surprise that building cars is expensive. What's less commonly known is how expensive it is to paint the cars. Creating a facility that can reliably, quickly, and cleanly lay down a quality coat of color is complicated. That task has gotten more complicated. The next gen paint shop, a next gen paint shop can cost $1 billion. By eliminating it and thus eliminating the paint shop, it's massively simplified. You didn't eliminate it. You still have to paint. People aren't as concerned with precision drips and whatnot, but that's not the part that's expensive. It's the
Right.
environmental regulations that are expensive. You still have paint. Vehicle factories tend to have high ceilings to make room for multiple story stamping machines that form metal body parts. This is injection molding, you guys. It's easier and cheaper. Right. But that's just the door panels. That's just the outside skin. You still have to have the stamping presses.
Unless you do the cybercab approach, which they are overlapping the various pieces so that you don't have to have those. But they're also still going to have to paint some of those, but they're painting them side by side as opposed to having the entire thing assembled. They're painting it's like a almost two-dimensional rather than three-dimensional, if you will, in terms of the amount of paint shop they're going to need.
You're still going to need to dip and primer the whole thing
Right.
and paint it. It's still all you got rid of was the last part of the paint shop. Um, it's these articles are written by people who do not seem to understand is that, well, they're only going to make one model, right? That's what all companies start with, one model, by the
Right.
way.
Mhm.
That's how that works. And and it's only going to be in one color, right? That's, again, that's not the expensive part. It's all of the parts leading up to it. And of course, as we mentioned, it's not going to use LFP batteries because they want that federal credit, and
Right.
you can't get it with Chinese batteries. I said yesterday on X, I said that it costs billions to make a factory capable of mass production. They don't
Mhm.
have billions, not even a path to billions. Uh, and if they did, they'd still find 25K too low to sustain. To which this gentleman said, 25,000 too low to sustain. Chinese EVs have been saying, hold my beer on that since the 2020s. People need to travel more. So this
so,
gentleman may not be familiar with my travels. I just said,
so
go to China, you say?
yeah.
Uh,
So it would seem like you would need, maybe, in order to raise the rest of the money, because you're saying they've only raised a hundred. I'm shocked they've raised that much money,
I am
130
as well.
million or something you said. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you're going to raise the rest of the money to build that factory, I would think that these $50 orders, $50 deposits, you'd probably need a couple of 100,000 of those to get somebody to say, okay, I think you've got an item here. I doubt
Yes.
very much whether they're going to get that kind of number. I could be wrong.
Well, even if they had a million reservations,
Yeah.
that's only $50 million. That's not enough to buy the factory,
No, I'm just
even
saying
a
if you have
derelict.
a couple of
Right,
100,000 orders, you might get people to put
right,
in the
right.
next round. Yeah.
You would get the next round,
Right.
but
Financing.
it's just not enough. And
Yeah.
the money is not flowing. Aptera can't get funding. And Aptera's got a very loyal fan base with a tremendous amount of reservations of people who really want to take delivery right away. So I don't know what they're thinking. One thing you'd asked me about when we were discussing this before was, how much is a Lightning Pro? It's
Right.
50,000. It was 40,000 briefly, though they didn't sell any. They sold like 10 at that price because they were losing money. Uh, you can, but this vehicle, a few years old, is going to be pretty close to that price anyway, and it's a whole lot more truck.
Right.
So there's a couple things I wanted to address finally before we wrap it up on it. One is that when that gentleman said to me, China's been saying, hold my beer, great. This isn't China. They're not planning to manufacture in China. If a Chinese company said, we're going to build a bare bones, stripped down that truck and sell it for 27,000 in China, not in the US, I'd say, I believe you. I think you can do it. But the trick is, companies have been trying to do this for years. This isn't 2017 anymore. The money isn't free flowing for all the EV startups. You have to, the money's just not flowing. And I think getting to 27,000 would be impossible. And if they, uh, I've had people say, well, even if it's more than that, I'd still buy it. Right. Start with the real number, would you? So let's
Well,
talk about a
yeah.
car that could be closer to 27,000.
Oh,
Uh, this. Now, we've heard the number 25,000 thrown around.
yes.
I don't personally believe they will sell it for 25,000 because they don't need to. But
Right.
others don't believe they'll sell it for 25,000 because it's kind of too much car for 25,000. It might cost 30 alone to build or 25 to build, but let's just say it is. Let's just say if Tesla can't build this for 25,000, Slate definitely can't build a truck for
Yeah, that's for
27,
sure.
because this is much simpler. And Tesla already has the factory. They already have the engineering. They already have the supply chain. They already have all the pieces of a business in place. They have the engineering. They have the battery supply. They have the only part missing is the autonomy and they're working on it, right?
Right, right. Well, pretty much everybody that I've seen that's been trying to estimate the cost on this have thought that they could get it in for 16 grand.
I am inclined to believe that once they reach volume, they will never tell us what the price is to build it. That right now, one of the biggest expenses on it is the hardware, which cuts in price dramatically year by year. Hardware 4 is going to, be Raspberry Pi cheap one
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Uh, but for today, it's not. And even still, this car weighs less, has fewer atoms, has fewer parts, is simpler to build. The Slate doesn't use gigacastings. I mean, they're relying on stamped steel.
Steel.
That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's old and cumbersome. So I'm not sure what if if you believe that Slate can cost 27, then you should believe this can cost 16. And I
Right.
am also going to say that their battery solution is woefully inadequate, because if you're putting in 52 kilowatts or 57 kilowatts and you're expecting to get 150-mile range, that means you're going to charge it to 100 every day and drain it to 0. Uh, and I and that you're going to get 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and I don't think you're going to get 3 miles. I think the idea that it would get comparable efficiency to a Model Y while being shaped like a brick is it strains credulity, Randy.
Strains it. It strains it right down to the final Y.
Yes, yes, you're running out of tolerance. I am running out of tolerance. Look, I've called a lot of failures in advance.
You have, and you're not even talking about any of my friends.
Yet. Uh, yeah, that Tommy fella. Yeah, I don't know. Keep steer clear of him. Oh, he just went to rehab. Oh, there you go. No, but in terms of vehicles, manufacturers with their problems, I've got so far, I'm batting 1,000 on my predictions. Uh, but maybe this is the one where I get it wrong. Maybe I lack vision, Randy.
Maybe it's
Uh,
possible. I mean, Lucid has not gone under yet.
I never said they'd go under. I said they
Oh,
would hemorrhage cash, and
hemorrhage.
the ensuing cash raises, funding raises, would water down existing shareholders to homeopathic degrees. Uh, and that has proved true.
That is definitely
What I've said about their demise is that their fate is entirely in the hands of one organization.
right.
So as long as the Saudi
Saudis.
PIF is happy with them, they will continue. And the second their patience expires, so shall Lucid. So
True, true. So
we'll
true.
see. We'll see. Uh, any thoughts on, like, what would it take to make this happen?
Yeah. I would go the other way, not necessarily the other way. I guess I maybe somewhere in between. If I really thought that a stripped down pickup truck was a good idea for the U.S. market, which I don't, I think I would strip it a little bit back up. I would put some clothes back in, make it a little cooler, more interesting, um, uh, interesting looking, interesting in terms of, okay, I don't really care that much about this, whether the window is crank or not. I mean, I don't like the crank windows, but it would be okay. But I think I need my entertainment center. I think I need at least 2 speakers.
Mm-hmm.
I,
2
I,
is not unreasonable. That is not
well,
an unreasonable ask. If you can build this truck for 27,000, you can build the one we're describing for
right,
37, and you
right,
would still dominate the market.
right.
Why didn't they say we're going to build that one for 37? Because it's not a good enough story.
Yeah, maybe, huh? That could be it. That could be it. Maybe they're thinking PR, PR, PR.
Well, then other journalists hopefully would start asking the real questions. Could they build that truck for 37?
Yeah,
And the answer is still no, because you don't have a factory, you don't have the tooling, you don't have the depth and breadth of engineering prowess, you don't have the supply chain. All you've done is, I mean, this is the kind of thing we saw over and over in the last part of the last decade. Lordstown, Faraday Future, Fisker,
yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
all these companies had all these grand visions, and it just doesn't always make sense.
Indeed, indeed.
Guys, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? In the comments, please don't be a loon. I beg of you. It is free to not be crazy. Um, please consider that we have read these things. We do know what the company is trying to do, and we understand the magnitude of the challenge. Starting a car company is nigh impossible. There is a reason it is so difficult.
If
In the
I'd
comments,
only
yeah.
known all these years that it was free not to be a loon, you're telling me now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you now. I'm telling you now. I mean, you've seen people go to the nut hatch. It is expensive, Randy. It is quite costly, but that's fine. Uh, so, guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Which one of us is Statler and which one is Waldorf? We got to know. It's very important to the flow of the universe. And everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the flippity flop.